Hello, viewers. Welcome to another episode of the Nana Yaa Yeboaa Podcast. Today, I am here with my doctor sis. Yes, she is the doctor and she is my sister. I have adopted her. Dr. Adeanna Tazell is is a scholar, not for profit leader, researcher whose work is focused on improving Black maternal health outcomes. And if you all don't know, now I'm telling you, my background is Black maternal health. I've been labor and delivery for 2 decades before I put my hat down. But that does not mean that Black women in labor who need help cannot still get to me to get help, right? So, Guarding the Black Womb, that was a beautiful, thoughtful, well written read. Guys, you can Google it up and you can find it. So, in this paper, you explore the role of culturally competent care and the impact of doula support in addressing systemic disparities faced by Black women and birthing people. So when what I got out of it is that it's about life, it's about dignity, leadership, and systems change. Am I
Mhm.
right?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
welcome to the show, my sister.
Thank you
My
for having me.
doctor
Yeah.
sister.
Thank you for having me.
Hey. When I sent you the message and you said yes, it's like, oh, she said yes.
I appreciated the invite. I couldn't wait.
Years ago, I was doing research on blacks in nursing, and in Canada, what I did find was challenging research. Since then, there's been research written, papers written, but there needs to be more done, and
Hmm.
your work adds to what needs to be done. But before we get to your work, let's get to you, understand where you're coming from. So let's get to your roots. Dr. Sis, take us to your childhood, how you grew up, what your influences were, and how you became you.
So, very interesting childhood. I had a very good upbringing. My mom is the only girl, all boys.
Oh,
So, I was raised kind of in like a male dominated family, but my uncles were tough, but they weren't hard, if that makes sense. Honestly, I come from a legacy. My great grandmother was what they call a baby catcher. She was
mm,
that granny midwife. So,
mm-hmm.
I come from that legacy of birth work, but I didn't know that that is something that I would get into until I got older. I went to school. My first bachelor's is in communication. So, having all uncles and you're just surrounded by sports, I'm like, I'm going to be a sports broadcaster. And, I ended up in a working in psych. I did psych for 12 years. And my uncle, he worked in psych for 30 years. And I didn't know my grandfather ended up he was working in psych. So it's like these unbeknownst legacies per se, where I ended up where these family members were. And now here I am, doing the legacy of my great grandmother as in birth work.
Wow, that is deep. How did you end up in psych? How did
So
that happen?
so when I got out for my bachelor's, I didn't want to move per se. I went to Buffalo State, which is maybe about an hour
Mm-hmm.
away, and what a lot of my professors was telling me that these are small markets. So I would have had to go to like California, some of the bigger markets, and fresh out of school, like I wasn't sure that I wanted to move, across the country. And a good friend of my uncle, who I call her my auntie, I know her since I was 12, she's like, well, healthcare is always, something that you'll always have work in healthcare, and I was like, well, let's give it a shot. Now, I didn't know what I was getting into when I got into psych, because psych is a different monster per se when you work in healthcare. I did
Mm-hmm.
respiratory, right? So I have my associates in respiratory care also. So being in psych is completely different from dealing with someone who has issues breathing, right? You're doing trach care,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing treatments. And when you have psych, you have it's mental. And sometimes people don't understand what it looks like when someone is fighting within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're hearing voices, or they're depressive, or even when we would have women that would come in who were postpartum, even then,
Mm-hmm.
it they they kind of took what was said and didn't really pay attention to what was going on. It's like she just had a baby. Like she's got some postpartum things that are going
Yeah.
on. So it's like, yeah, she may have said that she can't do this anymore. She may not have said that she doesn't want to live anymore, but you're hearing she doesn't want to do this anymore. And it's hard when you're coming down with these hormones and the emotions from just having a
Mm-hmm.
baby. So, getting into psych was kind of like a kind of falling into
Mm-hmm.
with the mental health system, but it still works out with having that background and in mental health, because
Yeah.
now we have to focus on postpartum and
Yes.
maternal mental health and
Yes.
all the different aspects of postpartum, right? Postpartum psychosis, things like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
having that background also works into my work now was in maternal health.
Wow, that is so amazing. That is amazing. We need more people like you.
Oh, thank you.
So let's get to the defining moment that led you into maternal health and equity.
So, I had started working for an organization, and it was focused on Black maternal health. And
Mm,
that kind of like turned the needle of this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right?
mm,
And then having that legacy, right? Like I said, with the granny midwife, it's like this is what I'm really supposed to be doing, right? You have that background in other things, but sometimes things click and it's like this is what it is. This is what I'm
mm-hmm.
supposed to be doing. This is what my focus is. So, starting within that organization and doing my dissertation, it's like this is what my life's work is supposed to be.
Wow, that's great. Because not many of us get to know. We circle and go around, and some of us are still circling and going
Mhm.
around. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's good when you get to know and zone in immediately and keep going at it. And it's also the family history
Mhm.
background has also, helped it. Yeah. One thing I know, you talked about your grandfather, your grandmother as a baby catcher, but what I want to understand is how your early life shaped your understanding of care, community, and advocacy. Because when I look at your work, when I read your work, it's like this is purely advocacy. Like this is what needs to be done.
So, my family has always been boots on the ground people.
Mm,
We have an organization here, Action for a Better Community, to which my aunt, worked for, that. My mom was in Vista. So I come from, a family who this is what they do. This is what they did, we're community people advocacy.
mm-hmm,
So having those roots of seeing people who this is what we do, right? We're all about us, our people, right? Being in the community, working in the community. My mom was a Panther. So her having that, background of you're out there doing sit-ins and protesting for black folks,
Mm-hmm.
kind of shaped definitely who I was, knowing that regardless of what I was going to do, it was going to be people focused.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. So, my sister, you are people focused. You're speaking a language that, I understand. And I'm going to jump back and forth. I look at it, you did executive leadership, and I'm saying, now I work in an organization with beautiful Black women at the top as an executive director. The director is a Black woman, and myself as a manager. And it's not even being able in that womb space,
Mhm.
that um selfless space, that warm space. At least that is how I feel when I
Mhm.
get into the space. There's dignity, there's respect, there's all that, you know, let me lift you upness to work in
Mhm.
this space, to do your community work. Um, my question to you is that, why did you decide to pursue a degree, a doctorate in executive leadership? Why?
That is a good question. So I did a lot of research on what type of doctorate I wanted.
Mm,
There's the PhD, the Psych D, and this one is an EDD, right? So
mm,
it's, my doctorate in education. But the purpose of me choosing this program is because it was rooted in social justice. So even though it is the doctorate of executive leadership, this particular program was rooted in social justice. So that is what turned the needle on, this is the program that I need to be in, because it
mm.
aligns with, all my values, my passion, and my focus. So this is why, even though it's executive leadership, but it was focused in social justice.
Yeah, nice. You mentioned some keywords that really jives with me: values. Can you talk about that a little bit? What are the values that drive your moral compass?
Being humble, being genuine, being authentic, and especially for me, being unapologetically me.
Mm-hmm,
Um, for my When I think about my moral compass, it still focuses on people.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thinking about the other person, even as a leader, right? When we lead people, we also need to know how to follow.
Yeah.
So, for me, as far as when I think about like morally, I'm thinking about other people. How are they? Not having, and even as humans, it's hard not to judge, but you can never judge someone and what they're going through, right? You
Mm-hmm,
never know what's happening with someone. So for me, like those are like some of my values that I sit on, if that makes sense.
it does make sense, and I had to dig a little deeper into that, because when I was training new nurses, when I asked what are your values, it's like the first time they've ever been asked that question.
Mhm.
Or even then, my director, when I asked her, what are your values? She looked at me, it's like, nobody has ever asked me this question before. My
Mhm.
clinical educator, I asked her the same questions. It's like, let me go think about it and come. So I
Mhm.
realized that there is a problem that needs a solution when people don't even know what their values are
Or what they value.
or what they value. Thank you.
Mhm.
But they are in a space that they say they are caring for somebody else. So, have you done self reflection, taking a look at yourself and say, this is what drives me? I have dignity, I have respect, accountability. Do I live by it, or is it lip service? So
Right.
what I did is, you go sit, think about it, and if you don't know what it is, Google it up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
pick two or
that's
three.
and that's important, especially when you said you worked in labor and delivery, because when we think about the maternal health crisis, right, people need to know what they value, because here is the problem, right? You have moms who are dying, and you may not value this mom as a person, right? She's saying she's in pain, and there's still people who believe that Black women have higher tolerances of pain.
No. Pain is
Exactly.
pain.
Right. Pain is pain, right? You know, something's wrong and they're not being heard. Like, well, you're pregnant, you're in labor. Of course, this is supposed to happen, right? So, you asking those questions is very important and valuable, especially when we talk about this crisis.
Yes.
Because when you value nothing, right, and you're just coming in there like, I'm working, she's pregnant, she'll be having a baby. Here's the problem, because you have a mom and you may just see that she's Black, and you already
Mm.
have these preconceived notions, and you're locked and loaded with these biases,
Yes.
and you don't know what it is that you value.
Yes, yes. And you did mention one key word, the biases.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many biases. What I used to get was the question. It's like, why are Black people always so angry? And I said, because of people like you.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because of people like you. Because there's power imbalance every time you have access, or they give you access to intimate parts of themselves.
Yep.
But we just take it for granted. Have you
Mm-hmm.
talked to the person? And
Yep.
even myself as a Black woman, and I get a Black patient, then some come in and it's like ready to fight.
Yep.
For me, it's entertainment. I take it as entertainment, because I say, by the time I leave here, you want me to stay with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I understand where they're coming from.
Yep.
I've taken that time to understand them. And when they come in, yes, I take the time, pull a seat. What is your story?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get it all, sometimes I get bits and pieces, or sometimes they try to hide it from me. And so then the conversation is, well, if you want me to be here with you fully, 100%, I got your back, you'd let me know what it is, so that
Mm-hmm.
I know what to say, so that I got your back.
Yep.
But if you don't, you're on your own,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
But let's say I was blessed with the fact that they had honest conversations with me, that I was able to align and be there for people. Even today on TikTok, I saw a message. It's like, oh, thank you so much for being there when we had our baby. And these were
Mm-hmm.
new immigrants from Nigeria who had come and had their baby. She was diabetic, found a everything, and had a dietitian who was telling her to eat salad, eat this, the Canadian food guide. And I started laughing when she came because that was not going to work anywhere.
Right. Right.
The
Oh my
culture,
goodness.
the cultural context was missed. So I had a conversation, started breaking down the foods that were eaten back home, similar foods that can be utilized here, the quantity to eat, and everything. It's like, ma, she could have told me that. I said, well, my dear, she didn't know.
Yep. Yep. And that's the cultural divide, right? When
Yes.
especially when we hear like diabetes. I remember I had a care manager, and she was like an older Black woman that she was caring for. And she was like, well, I told her she's gonna die if she keeps eating fried chicken. And I'm like, say what you say? Like, you don't, especially with an older Black woman. I'm like, you cannot approach an older Black woman
Like that.
saying stuff like that. I'm like, you need someone who is culturally competent to be able to give her options She was
Mm-hmm.
like 78. She's been used to eating, you know, greens with neck bones in it. Like, you can't just tell her something like that. Yeah, because she yelled at me and told me to get out. Of course she did, because you offended her.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you have to know how to talk to people, and also have the wherewithal to be able to give options, especially
Yes.
if they're diabetic, right? Okay,
Yes.
you may not want to have fried chicken, but make it this way.
Yes.
Use turkey instead of
Yes.
pork in your greens, right?
Yes.
You know, things like that. Just don't tell a black woman that they're going to die eating fried chicken. Of course she told you to get out. I would have told you to get out if you talked to me like that.
Either way, she's lucky she didn't tell him. Either way, I'm going to die, and I'm going to die happy eating my
Right.
fried chicken.
Absolutely. 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 She was
So,
nice.
so I want to die happy, and if that's
Right.
where my happiness comes from,
Absolutely. She
yeah.
could have said, I'm 78. I'm going to die anyway. So I'm going to, matter of fact, I'm on my way to Popeyes right now to get fried chicken, you know? She could have done that. It's like, she she did you a favor.
So sometimes we totally miss it, but I can definitely understand. I can
Hmm.
definitely understand. Since we went, of course, to Popeyes and fried
Yes, I
chicken.
know.
Oh Lord, have mercy.
Oh my goodness.
Let's get back to our leadership.
Okay. Yes.
Dr. Sis, please do not lead me astray with your Popeyes and chicken.
Okay. All right. We'll stay on the path.
But that was a good one. So I think you answered that, right? When you pursued a doctorate in leadership,
Hmm.
right? Yes. Uh-huh. And how it interacts with maternal health. I think we were on the path, and then we went somewhere.
Yes, we veered off a little bit.
We
Yes.
veered off.
Yeah.
Please continue. I promise I'll be quiet.
Oh no. So,
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
this program was rooted in social justice, right? It
Mhm.
it allowed me to have the outlet to be
Mm.
able to do my dissertation on my focus, which is, Black maternal health,
Yeah.
and especially focusing on utilizing doulas. Doulas are not something new, but is not very accessible, or had not been very accessible for, Black women who can't afford it.
Mhm.
Without the Medicaid reimbursement that we had here, a lot of doulas were expensive, $200-300 and an hour. And if you have someone who is on a fixed income, they can't afford a doula, and some still don't know that they have access to a doula, which is a problem, because this is birth support, right? This is somebody that can be there for you, in addition to your family members who can, advocate for you. So, being able to choose this program, so therefore I can, go with what I want to do my dissertation in.
That's great. I promise to be a good girl, but when I was at the bedside, me and some doulas did not mix at all.
Mm-hmm.
Did not mix at all, because there was a lot of overreach. Because I was practicing with a license, so I'm looking at things a little differently in terms of safety. And I do understand people, personal space, etc., want my right and everything. But when you're dealing with two people, from my perspective, that you can't see one, you have to go to mama to get to baby. That
Mm-hmm.
is a VIP. And as I operate, everything is about safety. Because if you
Right.
come with a heartbeat in you, when I'm done at the end of the day, I want to leave you and your baby both heartbeat before I go home, so I can have a good night's sleep. But
Mm-hmm.
my experience with a few of them was overreach that set me off. But that's not to say that I have met amazing Black women who were
Mm-hmm.
doulas, and she was a doula, and then I took care of a client, and Oh, it was a beautiful story. We danced the baby out.
Oh.
It was ridiculously funny. I tell you, we were playing music and dancing whilst I keep listening in between documenting and dancing. And eventually she said, I can't. It's like, okay, what's happening? I really, really need to have a bowel movement. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, let's
Right.
go.
It's time.
Ooh, it's time. Hey, doctor, come, let's get the
Yes.
baby. It's like, what happened? Baby's here.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful. Husband was amazed. Even I was shocked that baby came so quickly. It's like the endorphins, everybody was so relaxed, so happy. It was a very happy occasion. And it stuck with me because it's the woman, the black woman who was the doula, her energy was so positive
Hmm.
that and infectious that it carried over to I'm already infectious, if I must say
Yes.
so. That's my doula story. That's my doula story. Yeah, but I have had to tell a few to back off,
Hmm.
literally back off.
Mm.
Yeah, literally. But I do understand where you're coming from, most especially within the American context. But before we move forward, let's talk a little bit, let's dig a little bit about Black women in America.
Whew.
Oh, whoo, I can even feel
So,
that.
yeah, so Black women in America die 4 to 5 times more likely in childbirth here. Yeah, the rates are staggering, and depending on where you are, I'm in New York. Those are, the rates. Some spots down south, they're higher.
Yeah,
And that's because of the biases in the systems. They have this ideology of, Black women, they don't take care of themselves, they're all Medicaid. There's higher rates of C-sections with women who have Medicaid. So here, trying to move the needle with, Black maternal health because the rates are so high. And the problem is it's not the stereotype, right? It's women like us, right? We're educated, you know uh, we have, decent jobs, who are still dying. It's not,
yeah.
the low income, women that they automatically assume, the underserved populations. No, it's a lot of women who are educated and, are doing things, in their community or, within their organizations, that are dying.
So for somebody in the field or who was in the field by the bedside and how I operated, sometimes it's very difficult for me to process how another human being who's been well educated, who knows all the signs and symptoms, can allow this new
Mhm,
mother to die of either postpartum hemorrhage or
mhm.
embolism or whatnot. It is expected. For
Yep.
me, I say I expect it. If it doesn't happen, hallelujah. So my all my education or teaching is watch out for this, watch out for this, watch out for this. I have so the education we used to do has call your family doctor or call your nurse practitioner or call your midwife. I say no, call 911.
Mhm, mhm.
I have my call 911. So when I say this, the daddy says call 911 because my education was to the daddies. She can't do it. You are the advocate. You call
Right,
911. Don't bother
right.
calling your midwife. The reason why I tell them don't bother calling your midwife or your doctor is because you're wasting time.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the time they'll say they are coming, or you should come, or go to the hospital, or call 911, bypass that. Call 911. When you
Mhm.
get to the hospital, you can call them. If they want to meet you in the hospital, that is perfectly fine. But get here where people are, and let's take care of you. And that is my teaching across the board. It doesn't matter whether you are Chinese, whether you are Black, whether you're Filipino, it doesn't matter. That is my standard. Call
Right.
911. So
Agreed.
it baffles me that, like it was on social media quite a bit, and on the television, CNN, etc., that this woman, Black woman, in labor, with the nurse sitting and asking these questions, and she is feeling pressure and not attended to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking myself, as being a triage nurse, you come that way, I throw you in the bed. I want to see what is happening ASAP,
Mm-hmm.
because I can always document later.
Right.
So it, that is my personal struggle with how, why, who, what, where. But my personal struggle does not look at race,
Right.
but we are dealing with racism,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
structural racism within the
Yep.
system.
Yep. Racist
This,
system.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, my sister.
One of the things that I sometimes would tell people is that we need to understand that a system can't fail those it wasn't designed for.
Mm,
You
mm-hmm,
know, these systems really weren't designed for Black
mm-hmm.
people. And it's apparent by not only the biases, but historically, right? When we think
Yes.
about them saying that Black women have higher tolerances of pain, right? When we look at James Marion Sims, right, when they were doing tests for not tests, but procedures, right, on
Fistula
slaves,
repair. Yes.
right? The systems were not designed; they were used with us, but it was not designed
Designed
for
for
us.
us. We
So
were the
how do we,
testers.
yes, we were the testers. So how do we fix a system that really wasn't designed for us to tolerate us? And that is the problem. Because if it wasn't, we wouldn't have these high rates of Black women and brown women, right? Indigenous
Mm-hmm.
women are
Yeah.
having the same issues, right? Where Black and brown women are dying, right? At an alarming rate, right? So there needs to be a change in the system that was not designed for us, right? These biases that when we walk in, like you said, people are seen as like, why are Black women so angry? You sometimes you just assume that I'm angry. Pain does not bring a smile. I'm not angry, I'm
No.
hurting, especially if I'm in labor. But they already have that angry Black woman, right? Already
Yes.
already
Yes.
prepared, right? She's going to be
Yes.
loud. Anybody in labor is going to be loud,
Loud. Yes. And
right?
also, even the loudness has cultural differences
Mm-hmm.
that you have to learn.
Right.
And
Right.
I learn my people depending on which area the Black person is coming from. We have
Mm-hmm.
different.
Uh-huh. Right. Right.
We have those that go like this, those
Uh-huh.
that get a hold of you and grab you, those that go it's so many different behaviors during that time. And
Mm-hmm.
I understand it. And then you have many Asians, particularly probably Chinese or some Koreans, who may not make a beep, a sound, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear you go, it's like, "Oh, excuse me, may I
Yeah.
please check you?" Yes. Ooh,
Yeah.
ladies. So every culture also brings in its own little. Yeah, we are spicy, we are spirited, we
Mm-hmm.
are so spiritual people, and that is what is expressed
Yes.
even in the way you and I are communicating. It
Mm-hmm.
is an expression of our soul. It is an expression of our rhythm. It's an expression of our history, of our people. So we cannot depress it.
Absolutely. Yep.
It is not possible.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
My sister, let me stop talking, Joe. Oh my goodness. So let's get back into this leadership business, right? So,
Okay.
in your view, what distinguishes leadership in not for profit and community spaces from traditional leadership models as you have seen it with your executive leadership role?
So for me, knowing the difference with leaders who are in not-for-profits have a passion for
Mm,
their work, right? Because not-for-profit, you're grant funded
mm-hmm,
versus someone who it may be in corporate. That is it's a different level of security and money.
mm-hmm,
Right. So people, for me, when you are in like that non-for-profit role, you're there because that is something that you have a passion for, whether it's Alzheimer's, right? Whether it's Parkinson's,
mm-hmm,
whether it's maternal health, right? You're there because you believe in the mission.
mm-hmm,
But when you are in like a corporate space, whether it's sales or AI or whatever, like that may be something you got your MBA, right? You're into business. So for
mm-hmm,
me, leadership looks different when it's something you either have a passion for or something that you went to school for, if that makes sense.
mm, mm,
Because
mm.
not for profit, you're
Yeah,
not, you know it, you're not going to get rich in not for profit. You're not going to get rich in social work, right? You have to be like a human based person, right? A community based person with working with money. You know, if you are looking to make big money, then
you're in the wrong
corporate,
place.
right? Corporate is where you need to be. So it
Yeah,
definitely is different.
you're in the wrong place. So
Yes.
my other question then is that women in leadership, particularly black women in leadership, what is your experience? What is your outlook? Is there any difference between black women in leadership and other leaders?
So it varies
Mm,
with black women.
mm,
Um I have had some experiences with black women where it almost seems like it's a competition.
mm,
You know, like you're in a secret competition in like leadership roles, right? Where it tends to be an unnecessary power struggle
mm,
instead of mentorship.
mm,
I feel like especially with black women, and that's not all black leaders. So let me make that clear. Not all black leaders, but there are some, right? And especially with black women in leadership, it's not easy to come by, right?
mm-hmm.
So there shouldn't be a power struggle, right? I am somebody
Yeah.
who if as a leader, my goal is to breed new leaders, right? To bring up, because you're not going to be here always, right? You're not
Yeah.
going to be in that position, especially in non-for-profits, right? Because you report to the board. So if the
Mm-hmm.
board decides today that you need to go, then now what?
Mm,
Whereas if you are in a space and have the opportunity to start pulling up other leaders, especially young leaders, right?
mm-hmm.
And mentoring them and working with them and coaching them to be the new generation of leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, I'm not going to say all, black women, but I have had some experiences with, black women leaders. And it's like, this isn't a competition thing because neither one of us are making a lot of money. Let's be honest. you know I'm not coming for your job. Like we're doing this work together.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
the same way somebody saw something in me and brought me here is the same way other black leaders should do the same. I mean, like I said, not all black women, but have had that experience, with that.
Mm, mm, mm. Whoa, my goodness. As I hear you speak, I keep thinking we have a long way to go. We've come a long way, yet we still have a long way to go. And also, I need to pay homage to our African American brothers and sisters
Hmm.
because a lot of the fight was done by you guys on this side for persons like me who immigrated even to Canada to come and enjoy some of the relatively, I'll say, what it is right now,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and lives lost during the civil rights movement to change things. And prior to that, you know, our enslaved ancestors that came from the shores of West Africa
Mm-hmm.
forcefully removed. Not all were docile that said, we want to be enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
The fighting continued and continued, and it still continues, like what you're doing yourself as an advocate in a different form. So I'll say thank you.
Oh, thank
And
you.
then, how do I add to this conversation?
You're adding to the conversation, right?
Yes.
Um, I One of the things that I noticed is people still try to create a division. So, like my braider's from the Congo,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me that when she got here, like the missionaries told her, like, stay away from Black Americans. Black Americans are, they steal and they're lazy. And, as a braider, as she, you know, got in the community, she's like, this is the problem. They try to create a division between, Africans and African Americans when, you know, we come from the motherland and you guys were forced from the motherland. And your story is slowly trying to be ripped away on, where you come from. So being African American, yes, you do. I did my ancestry, and my ancestry showed that, I have some from Benin, Togo, right? And some from Nigeria, but I also had, like Irish and from England. And I know why.
And I also know why.
Right, and I know why. The slave masters were, dipping and dabbing in those slave quarters. So I know why I have,
Mhm.
the Irish and from England and things like that. So, I definitely appreciate having these conversations because of the division that they try to create. And there shouldn't be.
Mhm. Mhm.
When, like I said, when we do the ancestry, you may have been born there, but our ancestors were come from there.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we just don't know what tribe we may have come from,
Mhm.
but that is
Mhm.
still our motherland, right? That is still the soil that our ancestors, come from.
Yes. So one of the key things that drive myself and the podcast is the power of storytelling, us telling our own stories, because I got to realize very quickly the story of us has been told as per the colonizer,
Mm-hmm.
as the conqueror. And there is an Akan proverb, or let me just generalize it and say an African proverb that says, until the lion learns to tell his own story, the glory of the hunt will forever be favored by the hunter. Because the hunter is the one telling the story of how I hunted and I caught the lion. But the lion side of, this is how I was tricked with this meat,
Mm-hmm.
etc., and was caught, will never be heard.
Mm.
And yes, and as a cultural custodian, what is my role in building bridges? Now, we're talking about Black maternal health. I'm a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
When we are standing together, all they see is, I'm a Black woman, you're a Black woman.
Yes, yes. Yep. Yep. Yep.
No division.
Yep. Absolutely.
Unless I open my mouth and you hear the accent, then you
Mm-hmm.
begin to figure out. But if I don't have an accent, or my accent is similar to yours,
Yep.
you wouldn't know,
Absolutely. A-
right?
yep.
So, unfortunately, divide and conquer was instituted on the continent, and it's the same divide and conquer that also was also brought here. So much so that those of us who were on the continent were brainwashed to think, oh, your ancestors were not taken, so you are okay. And then on the flip side is that, oh, you guys that were brought here, ancestors that were enslaved here, came to what is the term? What is the word I'm looking for? Kind of, like saw the light or brought into
Mm-hmm.
civilization.
Right.
Yes. So you are better than those on the continent. And that was the first lesson I learned. It's like, nope, I
Mm-hmm.
am not going to do this.
Right.
This division is not me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have conversations about ourselves, for ourselves, learn from each other,
Mm-hmm.
build together, so that Dr. Sis is going and calls Nana. We are going together.
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
So this is not an African American conversation. This is a Black woman conversation
Right. Right.
because we are Black throughout. Unless the
Mm-hmm.
person says they're something else, then that's their own problem.
This is why in my dissertation I put Black women, because exactly what you said, right? It doesn't matter whether you are, West Indian, whether you're, Black
Mm-hmm,
American, whether you
mm-hmm.
come from, Africa. When they see you initially, all they see is Black. They, like
Yes,
you said, unless you speak, then you're like, oh, they're from, Ghana, they're from the Congo, or, they're from Jamaica, they're from, the British Virgin Islands. But the
yes,
first thing they see is your skin.
yes.
So that's why I said Black women, in my dissertation, because it doesn't matter where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
When you are on this soil, unfortunately, you have a higher rate of dying.
Guarding the Black womb.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. That's a very powerful title.
Steep.
It's
Somebody has said, that's a heavy lift. And I said, but a casket is heavier. It is a heavy lift, but a casket is heavier.
let's talk about how you came up with the title Guarding the Black Womb.
Coming up with something that would really make the reader think.
Mm.
And when you think about guarding the Black womb, you really have to think about what that really means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's about, guarding our womb, right? Because there are some women who are deciding not to have children in fear of dying. So
Mm.
how do we guard that?
Mm.
Not to say, you're not just choosing not to have kids because that's not something that you want to do. Like, oh, I never saw myself as being a mother. But can you think about how that translates when somebody is saying, well, I don't want to have kids. Not that I never thought about being a mother, but afraid I may not come home. So, that's, running that through my head. Like, what does it look like to guard the Black womb? So that's how I came up with that opening title, Guarding the Black Womb.
It's when you said that, I was thinking in Akan language, when a woman goes to give birth or gives birth, and at the end we say utrinkwa, which is safe delivery, or basically we look at childbirth as life and death.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you go and you come, you have conquered.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Yes. And we know with childbirth, there's a risk anyway. But
Yes.
with Black women, the risk is so much higher and it's unnecessarily
Really.
higher because of these medical risk factors and these systems that are still in place. So that just increases the risk of someone not coming home to their baby or their babies because they could have other children that they safely delivered, and then this one, that she had, and because of not being listened to and preeclampsia and stuff like that, now these babies don't have the mother.
I remember a time that an Eritrean woman came. I triaged her. She came in complaining of headaches and dizziness and epigastric pain, and all that came out of my mouth is, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because you need not tell me anymore. I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're coming in with.
Uh-huh.
My dear, I got her into the room quickly. She said, Sister, I'm dying. I said, Oh, I think that was officially when I started swearing a lot.
Yeah. Because you knew, right, the signs and the symptoms.
Even when she said, Sister, I am dying. When I said, we need to go very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, calm down. I said, no. She says she's dying. She is dying.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Nobody is opening their mouth to tell me they are dying and they are
Right.
in my bed and I'm
Right.
playing.
And let's be honest, that's what happens, right? With a lot of Black women, when they say, I'm dying, something's wrong, you're dramatic, right?
No.
It's not that bad. And then when we have that fatality, it's like, damn, I should have listened. It's too late.
Girl, I want to sleep at night. I have a conscience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. But
Baby
think of how
Annabelle.
many providers who don't. They have a conscience, but they don't hear you, right? You're of course you're in labor. You're dramatic, and no, a woman knows her body, and she knows when something is off and not right, and you don't listen to there's a research. It was like something about listen to the screams or something like that. I have to find the actual article.
Mm.
And it's like they're right. Listen to the
Mm-hmm.
screams.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to the hollers, listen to the pains of these women before it's too late, because death is permanent. There's no coming back from that.
There's no coming back and not my watch.
Yeah.
Because I love to have a good night rest knowing that I have done what the good Lord sent me here to do.
Mm-hmm.
I did not create, and so I do not want to. No, not on
Mm-hmm.
my watch. So
Yep.
with that, we're lucky. She survived. It was like right in the nick of time between she said I'm dying that I started my F bombs left, right,
Uh-huh.
and center. Let's get her gone. Because one thing as well, I don't want to write no reports.
Right.
And I don't want to go stand in a law court defending any doctor or anything. No,
Right.
let's. And I used to tell them, if you don't do it right, I'll throw you under the bus.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Sometimes that's what needs to be done, but
So nobody
mhm.
wants to be thrown under the bus. So we do the right thing. So she was safe, baby was safe, but and really taking care of Black women is it's a different category.
Mhm.
I've been talking to one, and as I'm talking, she's stroking. Girl,
Mm.
I didn't know I could throw in an IV without a tourniquet.
Mm.
Between that stroking, IV, I think between 5 to 10 minutes, we had the baby out.
Wow.
because I started swearing there too.
Yeah.
I, I normally don't swear, so when I start swearing, that means there's something obviously wrong. We
Right.
need to go. Yeah. But that too, I was happy that because he said he just started getting a headache
Mhm.
and taking Tylenol. It's not going. So husband dragged her in.
Right.
And as I'm talking to her, taking blood pressure, I saw the first blood pressure. It's like she's going left. It's like, Madam, what's wrong? Half of them. Oh no 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 no. We are not doing that. I ain't doing your
You
drama.
knew. Mhm.
So, so I always say, at least I think I'm grateful that I was able to catch those and fatalities were averted, as opposed to somebody who may not have known that exactly this is what is happening, because they were my people. I think I understood the languages they were speaking as they
Okay.
were speaking. They're speaking English
Mhm.
from different parts, but you could cue in on, no, this is not right. This
Right.
is not right. So yeah.
Right.
Well, so I can say that that's how I guarded the black womb.
Yes, you
Almost.
did. Yes, you did. You Yes.
That's how I guarded the black wombs. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so
Mm.
let's talk about doulas, because their roles, what your research revealed, and how it helps improve outcomes for Black mothers.
So the organization that I did my study with, they
Mm-hmm.
are rooted in legacy
Mm-hmm.
and rooted in ancestral legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So what my study found was that how helpful having a doula was for their birth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having that extra support and being able to do things that a lot of the doctors shied away from. So, like
Mm-hmm.
some of them gave birth the ancestral way, right, on all fours, not on their
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
Some had like water births,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being able to do that, you know, having a baby naturally instead of pushing Pitocin, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of them didn't need Pitocin, but a lot of times, you know, it's like, well, the baby didn't come yet. The baby comes when they want to come. You know, they may not come when you feel like it's going to come right now. And
Some.
sometimes the baby comes really early. You know, you think the baby going to come, you know, in a month, and the baby say, I'm ready to come out now, you know? And some of them said like the doctors had pushed, you know, Pitocin, and they waited an hour, and, you know, they were fully dilated, and the baby was like, I'm here, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So they felt that having a doula for them and that support and
Mm-hmm.
having that advocacy, right, you know, like I said, it shows that a lot of women who have Medicaid, they push C-sections, right? They may not need
Mm.
a C-section, you know?
Yeah.
So having that doula is like, no, she can have the birth naturally. Like, just because you want to get out of here doesn't mean that she has to have, you know, a C-section. So showing, you know, the added benefit of having that doula, especially for someone who may not have that family support and they're not in there by
Mm-hmm.
themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Mm-hmm.
the family may not live in this area and can't get to them.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest challenges I found myself by the bedside is not a doula, but it's whether we do good education, teaching.
Yeah. Yes.
That I find is, I have a welcome to labor and delivery 101. Did you do prenatal classes? No. Okay, then we are going to do one. I can't
Mhm.
do the full one, but I have a 15-30 minute short one that you have to listen and learn. And then if I have you, I walk you through, because I find that the education helped a lot
Mhm.
as
Yes.
to expectation.
Right.
Yes. This oxytocin thing, I'm smiling because it just brought one to mind and a C-section. The
Uh-huh.
doula said no, no to oxytocin, no to C-section, and I'm looking at the patient. It's like, no, this is a C-section. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these old eyes and everything see it's like baby is not coming out of the hoo-ha, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what you did. So I explained everything. They said no, 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 no. Even for epidural to relax, nope. It's okay. Just ended up unnecessarily stressed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I came back the following day and she had a C-section because baby's heart rate tanked.
Right.
It's like, Bernadette, I should have listened to you.
And that 3,000%, agree. You know,
But I do a lot of teaching. That is different. I
right,
do a lot of teaching that I'm not just telling you, I teach you what you were not taught. I give you the information to make an informed decision,
right, right,
and I won't push you.
right,
But when I came, that is what I got. I said, next time we'll try again.
right.
Oh, my
Yeah, I
darling,
know
my
the doulas
darling.
aren't supposed to, give like medical, like the moms can make the decision, and a lot of times here, sometimes the doctors are
Mm,
kind of pushy,
mm,
you know, and the doulas, especially the one who I did the study with,
mm-hmm,
they weren't pushy, but it's like, okay, she's dilating. Why
mm-hmm,
are you forcing a C-section? You understand what I
mm-hmm.
mean? You
Yeah.
know, it's like, why are you forced it? Like one of the doulas said, with one particular birth that they had, like it felt like the doctor was kind of rushed.
Yeah, sometimes they see you as numbers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, I had those fights too. They,
Yeah. Yes.
they see women as numbers and not as human beings going through a natural process that sometimes very fast, sometimes slow,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes very slow, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there's just CPD. Head is bigger than the pelvis, so we'll go, go, go and get stuck,
Right.
right? So, and sometimes some are very pushy because they want to just go along. And what saddened me was even when we got female OBs, some were still practicing like the male OBs. I
Mm-hmm.
remember telling our chief that if they hired one resident, that would be the sorriest mistake they ever made. I'm not
Mm.
going to use the word that I used, and I told him, and I said, if anything happens, I will throw you under the bus.
Mm.
That's, I don't know, but my threat works.
Yes.
I use not so nice terms to describe the human being because I was really scared of her.
Mm.
I was scared. And she didn't like me. And I said, you don't have to like me. You know what? When mommy and baby are okay and
Right.
daddy is happy,
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm happy. I
Right.
can go to my bed and I can sleep. You
Right.
don't need to like me. So
Absolutely.
that definitely is there. But that's not to say they are not amazing doulas. Like the story I shared, they are amazing, amazing human beings that do the work. And it's catching up even here on this side of the border. It's catching up since I was in the position. Previously, we didn't have a lot, but now I can see quite a lot. And I also see the difference, should I say maternal difference or the soul difference of how people practice doula. There's a cultural component to it as well.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
My dear, oh, any last thoughts for us? I do have more questions, but it's like, oh my goodness, is it
Yes.
all? Guys, you've been listening to the Nana Yaa Yeboaa podcast. I always forget this part because I get so immersed in conversations
Yeah.
that matter. And you give me babies, mummies, and even though I'm not there, it's like I dream of catching babies every time. Doc- Dr. Adina, if we are looking for, forget the Dr. Adeanna Tazell, Dr. Sis, if we, you see that, Dr. Sis, if we are looking to find you, I know where I found you, but where can we find your work on Black maternal health and leadership? Because yours is so amazing.
um, I am all over the place. So
Now
trying
that
to
sounds
look
like me.
working to make things happen, right? If you're looking for me, definitely I'm on LinkedIn. I am working with the organization I did my study with, helping her,
Hmm.
revamp her organization, which is Our Mommy Village, but we are rebranding
Mm.
to Village Legacy,
Mm.
where focusing on ancestral practices and doula work. And I'm also working with an organization, Doula Me Aftercare, which is a postpartum doula organization. So in both
Hmm.
right now, but staying in the work, because there's, even though work is being done, there is so much more work that needs to be done with Black maternal health and Black maternal mental health, right? That the needle has moved, but it tips and then it starts to go back a little ways, when we see another Black woman who, I want to say she was a midwife and she died a few months ago. um it's like when you see stuff like that, it's like we're working, but somebody who was in the system has passed away. um
It is sad.
it is, because she was in the system, working within the system, and she lost her life. So trying to stay active and staying on top of it. So if anybody's looking for me, find me on LinkedIn. That's where I am. um Collaborations, working with people, because there is so much that needs to be done,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I get tired of seeing, beautiful Black faces that, we have lost, and now we have beautiful Black babies who will never know their mother because she didn't make it. you know that's hard to know, that this child will never know what her mother sacrificed or his mother sacrificed, right?
Or,
Unnecessarily.
or a mother's love.
Yep. Yep.
My people, you have heard Dr. Sis. We have a lot of work to do. Even those of us who thought we were done, we are not done. We are still in the work of bridging, of having these conversations, of learning every day, putting resources together, and helping Black mothers across the board navigate. And I can tell you for the fact that many of the literature when I was doing Black maternal mental health training was also coming from the United States because we don't have enough data here in Canada. Now we are doing the work to pull it up. So, Dr. Sis, thank you for the work you're doing. Please continue. Do not support. However, I can assist. Please, I am
Yes.
available.
And same. Let's not silo. Let's work
Yes.
together. We all are, they see Black.
Yes.
So let's stand together. Let's work together to change the trajectory of Black maternal health. Let's not silo this. Let's work together. Let's do this work together to make sure more moms come home and more
Yes.
babies have their moms come home.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much for your work, your research, and your
Thank you.
commitment to protecting and uplifting Black women and families. My
Thank
sister,
you.
today's conversation, now me want, now my mind blew.
Yeah.
Okay. I head to our listeners. This is a reminder that our stories matter. This research may look academic, but it is telling a story. Our story matter and our bodies matter. Please, Black women, Black people, our bodies have always been political and it matters. And so do our voices. So let's continue. Until next time, you've been watching or listening to the Nana Yaa Yeboaa Podcast. Bye. Dr.
Yes.
Sis.